Yes, guys, Suki for BTS TV, Beyond the Stage, fueled by Explosive Ape, Transform Now, and Powerhouse Club coming soon in summer 2025. Today, got the man, 2021 NPC Nationals champion. He's got his pro card, and now 2025. A lot of people are talking about this man, not just based on the pictures of socials, but also the narrative since he got his pro card since 2021. The journey up until now, where everything a lot of people are expecting, believing as well, is a big thing. As we got Carlos Thomas. Carlos, how you doing, mate? You're good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on. As I was just saying, man, like I'm loving what you're doing. I'm loving all the content you're putting out. It's catching fire. And like I said, it's not just a rehash of everything that everyone's doing. You're putting your own style on it. You're putting your own flair on it, and it's definitely showing. And I'm loving everything. So thank you for having me
Yeah,
on.
man. I appreciate. Well, look, with ourselves here, when I could do interviews, for me, just like I say on here, beyond the stage, for me, it's all about life outside of the stage that has created your mentality, created the motivation, created your determination, desire to achieve what you want to achieve within bodybuilding. So, where I really want to start
Yes.
is I want you to tell me a bit more about how the environment that maybe you were brought up in your childhood, how did that environment create the mentality that you have right now, where on your most recent YouTube video, you said, you know what, I'm going to the Arnold like I'm going to win it.
Yeah.
Now, that mentality must have stemmed from something in your childhood. So, I'm really keen to
Yeah.
understand a bit more about that environment that that created that mindset.
Yeah. 100%. So growing up, I just have like I said, I have a great, support system, with my family here, my mother, my father, just, they support me and everything I've done. It didn't matter if it was little league baseball, track and field, football. I've always had a great support system, and they've always poured into, the things that I wanted to do and encouraged me to do them at my best. So, coming up as an athlete in multiple sports, I just developed, that mentality of, just putting in the work and getting the work done, and that'll show for itself. So that right there, being a football player all the way up through the collegiate level, just developed that mentality of, hey, like, you got to work hard for what you want to get, because hey, like when you come in, you may not be the star. I was a backup to running backs behind me. I played running back, so I had to earn my spot. I had to earn that number one spot, and that's also translated into you know getting into the weight room and getting into bodybuilding is it's a direct translation or correlation to you put the work in, and your body's going to show the results of all the work that you put in. So yeah, just having that type of support and growing up and playing those sports definitely crafted that that athletic and that competitive mindset. For many years though, I would say I was a bit more humble and a bit more quiet, because that's just the way I like to be. Um, and I like to be reserved and just like I said, put the work in. But I would say this time around, I'm thoroughly believing in myself, not like I haven't before, but just believing in myself in a different way. And I would say that really contributed just to doing the work outside, like you said, beyond the stage. Doing some talk therapy work, some doing some mental work, for myself to build up that self belief and that confidence that everyone sees inside me. Everyone sees, the talent and the possibilities and the potential. But for myself, I think I put that humbleness too much, and I didn't speak or vocalize, the things that I believed. So yeah, now that I'm coming into my own, and my body's developing, and my mentality's developing, I feel like it's okay to speak out and say, hey, like, like I work just as hard as everyone else. Like, we're all grown men here. Like, let's be real. And I'm not going to act like I'm going to throw my hands up and be like, well, dust my, what I mean, it's already written. It's done. I can't be like that. It'd be a disservice to myself. It'd be a disservice to everyone who's supporting to me. It'd be a disservice to everyone who believes in me. So yeah, long story short, I would have to say, like, just everything culminated into this mindset that I have today. going through football, growing up in a very supportive environment with my parents. My father, man, he's like next to me and everything. You probably already seen him on my social media. This guy's in the gym with me. We're training. We're going to all the shows. He's like my manager almost. He's doing the networking. And that right there has just given me the extra oomph that I've needed to take this prep to another level. So yeah, it's just been a culmination of everything growing up.
Because I was going to ask the question about, was there a single person in your younger life that influenced how hard you work? But it seems like you've already touched on it, that probably is your father.
Yeah, yeah. I see him. He's worked super hard. He owns his own HVAC and plumbing business, so like you can call it a blue collar type of job. He's built his own business um, from the ground up here, and I've seen the hard times, I've seen the struggle times, but he always went out and worked really hard. When I was a kid, he worked very long hours, and he told me, like the stuff he had to go through to get to where he is. So yeah, and I think that that's definitely rubbed off. And more so his personality has also started to rub off for me because again, I was more of an introverted person. He's more extroverted, but hanging around him has definitely, rubbed off on me to be, hey, like, speak things into existence. If you believe, then speak that. So, and yeah.
What's been the greatest bit of advice that your father's given to you? Still you think back to when times get tough? Maybe it's something that you reflect back on.
Oh man, um, it sounds so simple, but this is one that always carries with me. And because I was always like kind of apprehensive of like when growing up of if, oh man, what if I fail, right? What if I just what if this happens? What if that happens? And he always told me nothing beats a failure but a try. So nothing beats a failure but a try. Always sticks in my head to this day. And I think I'm really starting to buy into that because not only in bodybuilding but in other parts of my life, I was very apprehensive about like, well, you know what, let me start my own coaching. But now I'm doing things to start that. I'm putting myself out there. I'm taking chances because you never know if you don't know unless you try. So that right there, he always said that stuck out to me. And and nothing beats a failure but a try also comes to bodybuilding. Like you don't know where you stand against these guys unless you stand against them. Like you can't run away from it. It has to happen at some point. So he always said that to me, and it's something that I always believe in to this day. I mean, like you have to give it a good try.
Well, let's touch on that then. So when was maybe let's look at 2024. Was there a moment where you did fail, but you learned so much from it that learning is going to be something that you can implement for later down your life? Can you pinpoint
Yeah,
a failure
yeah,
that you learned from?
yeah. Man, I think it's something that's happened a lot. Um, but I'll take bodybuilding for instance is when I did 2016 nationals and NPC nationals and I came in last place, super last place. And like I could have just hung it up there. I could have just been like, well, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe this just isn't the thing that I thought I was going to be. Because when I say I got last place, like when it says 16 on like the list, and I was like the last 16th person, and I was like, man, I'm last place. So what do you come back from, right? Like I wasn't a guy who came out swinging and winning everything. Um, but I decided, you know what, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to give it a shot. And then I came back again next year in 2017, still in the middleweight class, but I placed top five.
Middleweights, yeah.
Yeah. So that right there was an example of like, people may see me today and be like, oh man, he's got the gift and the genetics and, what I mean, like all these things, but I didn't, come into bodybuilding, winning everything or, achieving the success I think I thought I would achieve.
Then what did you do differently? Because I think this is something that a lot of people can resonate with. A lot of people will go through this where they do their first show, second show, third show, and they get a result which makes them question, you know what? Maybe it's not for me. There's 15, 20 people above me. What's the point? But clearly, there's something that you must have done that activated something in your mind that made you think, you know what? No, I'm going to come back. And you did come back better. You made success out of it. What changed between that period?
I would say it was just, my mentality of, the work that comes into it. I realized that, hey, like, man, like, to step up my game and come back and do something good in the sport, like, I have to, live and breathe it. And at that point it became like an everyday thing for me. Like, okay, how can I get better at the little things? Okay, do cardio in your off season. Okay, pose in your off season. So these things were like translating into the little things of, like, in, even in life, right? Like, it was just like I had to step away from friendships and step away from things that didn't benefit me. Um, and that's like any path you choose, right? Like, this path to a certain success, or a path that may be opposite of what others may be seeking, because it's something that you're passionate about. It may take you away from some friends. It may take you away from some lifestyles that you used to live. So I had to be okay with that, and learn, like, embrace that this is something that I want to put my all into. So I started treating it like, I mean, it was a job. I started treating bodybuilding like it was a job before it was a job. Like, like I was a professional before I was a professional. And Sergio Oliva Jr., we this was in 2020. We had 2021, and we sat down and we were having a talk, and we were on an event together. He saw how I had all my meals laid out and everything was to the T, and he was like, "Man, you're more professional than professionals," and I was an amateur. So that was the mentality that at that point, like, that switch flipped. I was like, okay, like, I have to, be the best I can be, and I'm going to control what I can control, and I mean, that's going to be the tail of the tape. Like, hey, like, if you can just nail everything, what I mean, and commit yourself, then whether you win or lose, you could say, like, okay, I did it all. So that after 2016, that's what happened. I started doing everything that I could. Like, it didn't matter what it was. If I could do it, I was going to do it.
That's some excellent advice. I love that. I love because I think that a lot of issues with people is that bodybuilders or those who try and come up the ranks, those who are in the amateurs try and become pro, they straight away think of the end goal, the pro card. That's the big thing. But what you're talking about is take care of the little things, and then there'll be a domino effect, which will eventually get you to that end goal, which of course for a lot of people is getting that IP Pro card. Take care of the little things. And I love what you mentioned as well is start being a professional before you are a professional. Do what a professional is doing in regards to meal preparation, their off season. Do all of that because that's what matters, and that's what's going to get you to where you want to be in getting that pro card. So I love that. I want to touch one thing as well because you mentioned about that take care of little things. You mentioned about your cardio, you mentioned about posing in the off season, but you also mentioned about cutting some people out as well to make sure you create the best possible environment for yourself. I always ask people this, but I'm always interested to hear their thought process around this. In bodybuilding, to be successful, which you are, how important is it to create the best possible environment that breeds success for you?
And I think it's the most important thing. And it doesn't have to be like you live in a box and you isolate yourself and you become this monk person. It doesn't have to be that, but I would say, craft the space in which you can operate at your very best. Um, so, it reminds me of this quote I heard, and it was like, if a man doesn't keep pace with his companions, perhaps he's listening to the beat of a different drummer. Let him dance to that beat, however measured or far apart. So basically, it's just march and to the beat of your own drum, right? Like, if something is taking you away and it's your calling and it's your passion, like, you have to, you have to listen to that, and you have to take that path. So crafting that environment so that you can, excel is very important. And it's good for the mental space because I think bodybuilding is more mental than it is physical. If your mental space and your stress and everything is not proper, then it's going to show and reflect in your physique, more so than anything else. So I think that's probably, one of the top five things about, bodybuilding is, I mean, being able to, shape and mold your environment so that you can, be the best and excel, and you have to be surrounded, by positivity. Like this anything in life though.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to touch on this as well then, because you mentioned about it's about the importance is surrounding yourself with positivity. You don't want anything that could bring you down, especially when you're going in the trenches through a bodybuilding prep. You need everything to be constructive and positive. Do you have an example of when you had to eliminate something that was negative within your environment? It may be a person, it may be a situation, it could be something online. But do you have an example of when you had to remove something? Because I think once again, this is something that could resonate with a lot of people where maybe they have some sort of negative factor in their environment, but they're just allowing it to stay in and impact them in the worst possible way when they're trying to prepare for a show. Do you have an example in that area?
You know what? I've been blessed that my environment's been very solid, rock solid since I've been in this sport, and since I started crafting it. But I would say, actually started bodybuilding when I was in college, like my last year in university. And up until then, like I was a party guy. Like I was in it. I was in the trenches of partying, living that lifestyle, pretty heavy. People may not see it today, but I was having a good time. I was having a really good time. Um, so I had to, I had a friend group. I did had a friend group who was into that. But when I decided to begin bodybuilding, I had to begin to move away from that. You know what I mean? And do I still have them as friends? Yeah, but did I, you know, go out to parties and drink and eat different kinds of foods? No, because I knew that this is what I wanted to do, and I started to build a different friend group in a different environment with people who had the same interests, and they were interested in fitness, and they were interested in bodybuilding. They were bodybuilders or they were CrossFitters, and they wanted to take care of their bodies and their health, and I mean, that was something that we all gravitated to. So I mean, for like I see it a lot today with fitness becoming more of a younger, it's getting more, younger and younger. You have people who are 18, 19,
Yeah,
wanting to be involved in bodybuilding, wellness, physique, classic physique, bikini, now probably fit model as well, bodybuilders. Like you can see it on Instagram or TikTok. Like these kids are 19, 20 years old. And that was the years where I was having a good time and partying. So, and I'm 100% certain it's still out there. So those people out there who, may have that temptation to, try to split lifestyles. Like if you really want to take this seriously and make something out of it, what I mean, you have to definitely go all in on it. You can still have your fun, but know that it might come at a cost of your goals. And that's just the
do you,
truth.
do you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of one of the greatest of all time, Phil Heath, sharing that story about his first ever bodybuilding show, where he was preparing for it, and the night before the show, his friends brought a party back to his house, and
Yeah.
he's there trying to obviously. He's made the choice that it's going to be no more partying, it's going to be focusing on bodybuilding, but he still had the environment of people who still wanted to live that college life, which of course, everyone's got their own interests, and he had to find a way to kind of remove that, not remove friends, but just remove that environment, so he didn't have to suffer from it because he knew this was going to impact him in the long run. Which, of course, clearly he made the right decision because now he's got all those Olympia titles.
Yeah.
I want to ask this then. So let's go more now, obviously within bodybuilding.
Yes.
Are you able to pinpoint maybe somebody within the Bible industry who's had maybe maybe the biggest influence in the trajectory of your career so far?
Oh man. Within bodybuilding, there's many people um who came in at many phases of, my career and everything thus far. But man, when people say like, man, how did you go from being the middleweight to like, winning your pro card at super heavy? Um, I really want to say it happened when, I flipped the switch on even more being like a pro. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to lock in and do this for real. And I remember that year, the leading into nationals, I was my mindset was just totally different, and everything clicked. So at that point, it was definitely working with my current coach, and I worked with him back then, Patrick Tour, um, because it was just like this aura he emitted, right? Like, it was like a professional, and it was just so like, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to get it done. It was, and it just translated into me, into my training, into the way I approach my nutrition and everything. Like, everything just clicked that year because I just felt, what I mean, like the structure that he laid out for me, and what I mean, and the method that he applied to my nutrition and my training, it just elevated me as a bodybuilder. I mean, I became more of a pro, before I was a pro. So yeah, I'd say he definitely influenced me a lot when it came to that. Um, and then I would say before that, it was my coach before him, Dorian Hamilton. He
Yeah.
taught me, how to properly eat. Coming out of a show, how to reverse diet, how to control your mind when you're super hungry after a show, and take that part seriously. And from everyone, I picked up a little bit of things. Even my one of my very first coaches, Dave Palumbo. Um, for him, I learned how to suffer. He pushed me so hard and to get into the middleweight class, and I learned a lot about pushing hard and dieting and taking yourself to that tough place with him. So yeah, I've learned a lot through with all the people that I've met in the industry, and those are some people that I can name offhand.
And what about is there, because I know you did a voice note to myself about the
Yes,
Detroit Pro, and you mentioned James Hollistead.
yeah,
Obviously
yeah,
James
man,
Hollistead is an icon here in the UK. Everyone's
yeah,
buzzing to see him back on stage at the Arnold's,
yes.
and of course he'll be at Detroit. You mentioned about this is somebody you look up to. What is it about
Mhm.
James then?
I think we have similar mentalities. And he actually messaged me today, and it was great. And I like him, and I love his career in bodybuilding. But I think outside of bodybuilding and the things he speaks about life and the things he's been through, and the way he reflects on a lot of his choices and actions and how they led him to where he is today. Um, I think there's something to be said about a man who can sit back and analyze his life and the choices that he's made, and learn and see where they brought him, and wants to further himself, not only within his own career but as a person. So I really do respect that a lot. I just think he's a good dude. I've spoken to him a few times, but I told him, I was like, hey man, like, I just want to sit down and have a chat with you one day. Like, let's just sit and just chat, like talk about life. I think that's amazing. That would be an awesome thing. Like, and the hell, he's a hell of a bodybuilder as well.
Yeah, for sure. Sure, he's got one hell of a gym as well here in UK. But I think that'd be absolutely awesome to kind of just
Yeah.
basically even just be a fly in the wall, just on that conversation between you and him. I just wanted to talk about another element where we all go through times when we're going through tough times, whether it's personal or whether it's just through training or prep mindset, especially with social media. Is there something that deep down, like that you, when you are in the trenches, when things get tough, is there something that you pull upon that actually brings you back and helps you persevere? I want to touch on that because, of course, perseverance is such a big thing with the bodybuilding. Is persevering through all the hurdles and obstacles, and sometimes you need to have some sort of inner motivation that you're doing for somebody or or something. What's that for you?
Man, for me, it really is. Um, it when times get tough, and I don't want to get too deep into it too much. But it really is just like my family and the things they've done for me, and the faith they've raised me under. To really sometimes just sit pray and ask God for guidance and for clarity. Because there's been times where, I've had my rough points in life and still do. Um, sometimes my mom just says, sometimes you need to pray. And my friend will go, I have a really good friend, and she'll go, you need to pray. And I'm like, okay, like I'll pray about it. And sometimes that's the times where things, become the clearest. So I think that's something that when I do have those rough times, I do fall back on that faith. I think that has helped me a lot. But outside of that, I do try to do, my own meditation. In the morning, I do some breath work, to try to keep that anxiety low, because I feel like I'm a naturally anxious person, who, ideas in my head can start to spiral, and what I mean, they'll just keep flowing one after another. So to keep that under control, I try to do my own bit of meditation, to make sure that I stay present, because like my therapist always says, anxiety is really looking into the future and worried about the future, but you have to be present and be here now. And I think that's something, that's I've learned a lot this past, I'd say, 6 months, is just, being in the now. So that's the only way that I can, continue to succeed. I can't worry about the past too much. I can't worry about the future. I have to be here now. I have to worry about what I control now. So, like I said, when I get too worried about the future or too worried about the past, I kind of fall back on that faith, and ask for guidance, and ask, to keep myself here in the present, and to control what I can control, because if I don't, then again, that's when you kind of you see your anxieties, you see your depressions, and you feel overwhelmed. So yeah, I would say, I mean, that's something that's helped me persevere through some tough moments.
Well, let's talk about the now then. Let's talk about 2025.
Yes, sir.
If let's say we're now here. We're now on 31st of December 2025. What would you want to achieve this year that you can look back and say, you know what? Yes, that's been a successful 2025. I've made another huge leap forward. What does that look like for you?
Great question. Great question. For me, it would look like starting off, taking on this Arnold Classic and placing, in that top five. I know I said I want to come in and win, which I am. I'm acting like I'm going to win, because you have to believe in yourself. I thoroughly believe that. But placing top five against, these two the current greatest bodybuilders, who just, consecutively won Mr. Olympias, Derek Lunsford, then Samson Dowda, and then Brandon Curry, who was a Mr. Olympia winner, William Bonac, who I look up to a lot as well, and has gave me a lot of advice in this sport. That's an Arnold Classic winner. Sean is a 212, Mr. Olympia. Obviously James. Going against these guys, and Andrew as well, who got me a Texas Pro. So so to to go against these guys, and place like the top five, and possibly push some of these guys for that top three spots, would be something that would be a feather in my cap towards the end of the year, and would take the momentum into Detroit Pro, which is a show that I believe that I can win, and I know that I will win that show. You can clip that right there. I don't care. Like I know I will, because like I said, I have a lot of faith and belief in myself. And then I want to continue to compete, win or no wins. I want to continue to compete, because I think Samson set the blueprint for that. Going out and competing, and letting these fans see you at different areas of the country, of the world, excuse me, is what bodybuilding is all about. Sharing and spreading that passion. So there's multiple shows after the Detroit. There's Arnold South America, which is where my sponsors are in Brazil. There's FIBO in Germany, which has brought back open bodybuilding for the first time in many years. So that would be a great thing to do. James is doing as well. So
Yeah, yeah.
and then there's Pittsburgh, and then there's New York, which is not too far from me over here on the East Coast. Um,
Dubai.
Yeah, and there's Dubai. So there's plenty of shows here, that, as a bodybuilder, I mean, there's an opportunity to get your name out there. There's an opportunity to obviously, win some money. There's an opportunity to, just make your brand even better. So I want to capitalize on that. And then the Olympia, that's the main one, right? Like the Olympia, coming into that Mr. Olympia and standing against the best in the world. and solidifying myself as, hey, like this guy is one of the best bodybuilders and can be one of the best bodybuilders to come is going to be a feather in my cap towards the end of the year. So yeah, those are some of the things that I'll be looking for. That'd be awesome.
What's your show calendar looking like then in the moment?
So the Arnold Classic and then Detroit, and then we're going to reassess right after Detroit. I know the Arnold South America. I think it's a week after or so.
Yeah,
A week
yeah.
after I have to check again. So that will be really cool to do. Or there is the FIBO right after that. So I haven't decided on which one of those two yet, but they're on my radar.
FIBO is going to be absolutely massive. I mean,
Yeah.
when I say massive, I'm talking about audience-wise. It's been a long time coming, and
Yeah, man.
already, I speak to the guys over here. Said I know a lot of guys who are competing over there. And obviously, it's big prize money. They're awarding the biggest amount of prize money for a European pro show. Already, the flights, even if you fly for UK or anywhere in Europe, flights have gone right up because they're
Mhm.
expecting big numbers, and it should be one hell of a spectacle. So yeah, it'd be awesome to kind of see you over here in
Yeah,
Europe
that's
at
the
the
thing.
FIBO show. So what about you? You talked to me with the on the stage. What about beyond the stage? To look back at 2025, what do you hope to maybe achieve beyond the stage? And that could be business wise, or more importantly, that could be more personally for yourself. What do you hope to achieve beyond the stage by the end of 2025?
Yeah, beyond the stage, this year I want to, continue to work on, my brand. As a bodybuilder, I've, done some things behind the scenes right now, that we're doing right now. We're working on, building up my coaching and, um, my own apparel and things like that. So I'm working on those things, and it's going to be just a way for me to do the business of bodybuilding without having to be on stage. And it's about time I've done it because I feel like now is the best time to capitalize on it as stock starts to rise, and I will be competing a lot this year. So I mean that's something I want to continue to achieve, um, it's also just enjoying these moments, with my family. I think that'd be the best part is coming to Detroit. My grandmother's coming there, and my
Right.
grandfather, and most of my family's coming to Detroit, bro. So to be able to enjoy these moments with them, and I mean, they're getting older, and we've had some recent losses in my family, and it becomes a part of just growing up. So to make some more memories with my family would be, something that would be a lot for me. I mean a lot to me coming up throughout this year. So being more present whilst can being competing, which I know is very difficult, is a goal for me. Still being able to attend as many events as possible because as bodybuilders, it's kind of sometimes we're like, oh, we just want to stay home. But still try to attend these events and make these memories with the family and the friends.
I I did want to mention this, but obviously, but you mentioned it, so I just wanted to touch on it very briefly because we're all aware of a loss you and your family went through
Yeah.
last year, and unfortunately, it's other people are going to go through something similar. People will go through losses. I just want to understand, like, a loss can also it's a fuel, hopefully, where you're remembering, putting things in perspective. And I can only imagine that if you got a result you want in Detroit, the first person that's probably going to come into your head when you lift that trophy. How are you using that loss to hopefully motivate yourself going into
Yeah.
these shows, because you got a lot of shows lined up? I can't even imagine, mate. Honestly, I can't imagine what you went through, what your family went through. But there is an interest in me wanting to know, how are you using this to hopefully make that leap and doing it for that family
Yeah.
member?
Yeah. So yeah, as you said, I lost my cousin who was like a brother to me. We were 2 weeks apart in age. And I remember he sent me a text message, and I screenshotted it here. And I can actually read it. He called me by my nickname, which is from my middle name. My middle name is Lamonte, so he calls me Monte. He says, "Remember, whatever you do." I'll read it. I'm reading it right now. He says, "Remember, whatever you do, strive to be the best at whatever it is, because when people surpass us, we're going to realize that we had all the same tools and all the same talents, but we didn't use them to our full potential. But if we give it all we got, we'll be satisfied with all of our earnings. I promise you that. I love you." And I read that from time to time when things get a little rough, and it's just a reminder to me that I have to give it all I have. I have to. Sorry, not my bad. I have to. I just have to do it. Because I was gifted with these talents and potentials, and it would be a waste if I didn't at least try, right? And if I didn't give it my best. So even when I'm tired, even when the prep's hard, I mean, I know that what he would want from me is to keep going. You know what I mean? To give it my best. And either
100%.
way, whatever happens, I'll be satisfied. So
100%. 100%, and no doubt, mate, no doubt of for what you've achieved so far and the trajectory that your hard work has taken you. That you're making him and of course the rest of the family proud, and that's why your following is where it's at, because of the transparency, that vulnerability you show, but at the same time it's that hard work as well, something that we can all resonate with, knowing that what, yes, you may not get a result for the first time, but don't let that result define you. What's going to define you is going to be the work you put in, is that output. I just want to finish. Then let's switch it up slightly before we wrap it up.
yes, sir.
Samson Dowder, UK Olympia champion from the UK, our first Olympia champion since Dorian Yates. His journey, to get to the top is inspirational for everyone. He's took the rule book up and he's tore it to shreds.
Mm-hmm.
Even
Mm-hmm.
2024, where he did the show beforehand, where he took his top off at the press conference, and of course the journey from Nigeria to the UK, working full time, and now look at him. That journey as well must be an inspiration for all bodybuilders, and also for yourself to see what someone like this can achieve. That what, if he can do it, so can I.
Yeah, yeah, and I love Samson for that, because I remember seeing a lot of his stuff when he was coming on the scene around that 2020 time. Everybody remembers he was in COVID lockdown in Korea and stuff, and competing. And even back then, I was like, this guy has a hell of a resolve, because I couldn't do it. I don't know if I could, but maybe I could, but you never know until you put into the situations. But man, he has laid the blueprint, as I said. Like he's brought everyone along for the journey, which is the most amazing part. Everyone has gotten to see and bear witness to the progress he's made, you know, on the stage, and how it's elevated his life outside of the stage. And I mean, he's carried his his partner with him the entire time, and I mean, they shared that journey together, which I think is a beautiful thing. But it just goes to show you, like, like, if you want it and you believe in it, that like I said, when you give it all, and my cousin said, if you give it your all, I mean, you're going to be satisfied with all of your earnings at the end of the day, because that you've given it, that 100%. So I'm just trying to follow in the footsteps, right? I'm just trying to continue to put my head down, grind, um, and make that progress, because look what happened. You could be Mr. Olympia. You could, like, that's the thing, right? It's crazy. This is crazy, because, like, man, people are like, man, he was getting, you know, fifth, or not making the first call outs and stuff. And it's like, what? And for him to be Mr. Olympia, it's like, what I mean? That's a story, almost like a Cinderella story, right? Like, it's an amazing thing. And I think everyone can take a lesson from that journey. What I mean? Like, in myself, I know I've taken a lot from it.
It really is the Francis Ngannou story of bodybuilding. You know, it's
Yeah.
similar, obviously, you know, coming from the same kind of background and everything that they've achieved. But look, Carlos, I just want to
Yes.
wrap this up. I just say once again, it's been a pleasure to speak to you. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what you bring to the stage at the Arnolds and at Detroit.
Yes.
And of course, I know there's going to be some more shows come up to it, and hopefully, I really have got my fingers crossed. I know that there's got a lot of UK support as well. I keep my fingers crossed that you are going to be at the Olympia 2025 to stand with the best in the world. I appreciate everything you've said today. I love this bits, about take care of the little things. I think that's something that I'm taking from as well. Take care of the little things, and then really the rest will happen over time. But just act like professional from the start. Even when you're an amateur, act like professional. Take care of the little things, and everything will fall into place.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me on, man. It's been an amazing experience.
Take care, Carlos.
Yes.